After 24 years in power in Syria, Bashar al-Assad is now out. The Syrian president, who fled the country after rebel forces captured Damascus, is now reportedly in Russia, where he has been given asylum. However, the takeover of Syria by rebels may not be a guarantee of stability in the region, which has been marred by civil war for over a decade. In fact, the ramifications of the rebel takeover may extend well beyond the Middle East. In the latest episode of HT In Depth, we examine what the return of the rebels means for Syria, Iran, Russia, Israel, the US, and what many refer to as the mastermind of Assad's ouster, Turkey. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad fled the country after lightning advance by a coalition of rebel groups brought an abrupt end to 50 years of brutal rule by the Assad family. The news sparked jubilation on the streets of Damascus, but also immense uncertainty about the future of the deeply troubled country. The stunning offensive, led by the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham or HTS, saw the armed rebels seize control of the major cities of Aleppo, Hama, and Homs in less than 2 weeks. Assad's most powerful allies appeared to have been caught off guard by the swift advance, with Russia bogged down in Ukraine and Iran's proxies weakened amid clashes with Israel. Uncertainty now looms over the potential ramifications of the sudden power vacuum in a country where armed groups, Islamist extremists, and foreign powers have long jockeyed for influence. The biggest impact of Assad's ouster may be on the Islamic Republic of Iran. Tehran's hegemonic project in Syria, and Hezbollah's privileged position in the country may now be a thing of the past. Remember, Syria is the main land route for Iranian weapons deliveries to Hezbollah, which is based in Lebanon. With Bashar al-Assad out, experts argue that Iran may be on the defensive. Experts argue that as other pillars of deterrence have collapsed, the value of nuclear deterrence has gone up in Iran. Another superpower that could feel the ramifications of Assad's ouster is Russia. For nearly a decade it was Russian firepower that had kept Bashar al-Assad in power. However, in a matter of days, the Kremlin-Syria project has unraveled in the most dramatic circumstances, with Moscow powerless to prevent it. Moscow is reportedly in contact with the rebels to secure its interests in Syria. The Assad regime had awarded Russia 49-year leases on the airbase in Hymyim and naval base in Tartus. A key question for Moscow: what will happen to those Russian bases now? The collapse of the Assad regime also comes as Donald Trump is set to return to the White House in January. During his first term, Trump sought to withdraw US troops from Syria but was persuaded against the move by advisors who warned that Iran and Russia would seek to fill the void. Remember, the US military maintains a significant concentration of troops at Al-Tanf, the tri-border area of Jordan, Syria, and Iraq. Experts say that the last thing the Americans want is to see their soldiers fighting rebels. Speaking at the White House, US President Joe Biden said this is a historic opportunity for the people of Syria, but also issued a warning.
Some of the rebel groups that took down Assad have their own grim record of terrorism and human rights abuses. We've taken note of statements by the leaders of these rebel groups in recent days, and they're saying the right things now. But as they take on greater responsibility, we will assess not just their words, but their actions. And we are mindful that there are Americans in Syria.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced that its military has temporarily seized control of a demilitarized buffer zone in the Golan Heights. The Israeli military also reportedly started bombing Syrian chemical weapons facilities and other targets in Damascus, the capital.
But it also means we have to take action against possible threats. One of them is the collapse of the Separation of Forces Agreement from 1974 between Israel and Syria. This agreement held for 50 years. Last night it collapsed. The Syrian army abandoned its positions. We gave the Israeli army the order to take over these positions to ensure that no hostile force embeds itself right next to the border of Israel. This is a temporary defensive position until a suitable arrangement is found.
While Israel is upbeat about the setback to Iran and its proxies after the ouster of Bashar al-Assad, the rebels are no ally of the Jewish state. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, is an Islamist organization that evolved out of the Nusra Front, a group that was affiliated with the terror group Al-Qaeda and with the Islamic State. A standard piece of that ideology is opposition to Israel. The Netanyahu regime now faces the challenge of identifying new areas of cooperation with new leaders. Turkey is widely believed to have greenlit the HTS-led offensive, having become frustrated with Assad's refusal to engage with Ankara. The Turkish government's main proxy among the victorious opposition forces is the Syrian National Army, a coalition of militias that has a complicated relationship with HTS, and Ankara is poised to wield significant influence in Syria moving forward. While Turkish officials have strongly rejected claims of any involvement, observers believe that the offensive, which appears to be aligned with Turkey's long-time goals, could not have gone ahead without Ankara's consent. Turkey stands to gain in three major ways. Ankara now has the opportunity to reshape Syria's map based on its geostrategic interests. Turkey also gets a chance to tackle its Syrian refugee problem and can more effectively tackle the Kurdish threat along the border. However, the Syrian government's fall could pose several risks to Turkey, including sending a new wave of refugees toward the Turkish border if chaos ensues. Turkey would look to avoid the territorial disintegration of Syria, with different power structures vying to obtain autonomy on their territory. A new era has begun in Syria, but will the post-Assad era bring peace to Syria and its neighbors? Or will the instability in Syria escalate Mideast tensions further, making it another arena for a proxy war between the world's top powers? Only time will tell.